TV7 Israel News is made possible thanks to your generous donations.
Shalom and good evening. This is TV7 Israel News, broadcast to you from Jerusalem. And in today's top stories, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu asserts that Jerusalem wants peace with Iran once the tyrannical Ayatollah regime is removed. The United States reaffirms its pledge to ensure that the Islamic Republic of Iran will not attain nuclear weapon capabilities. The Israeli Air Force conducts over 500 aerial strikes, destroying much of Syria's aerial strategic capabilities. The consecutive defeats of the Islamic Republic of Iran in its multi-front war against Israel have cost the Ayatollah regime billions of US dollars that have seemingly been wasted. In a message to the Iranian people, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu highlighted the fact that the funds squandered by the Ayatollah regime on its failed expansionist aspirations came at the expense of the Iranian people themselves.
People of Iran, as we see history unfold before our very eyes, I can only imagine what you're feeling right now. Your oppressors spent over $30 billion supporting Assad in Syria. Today, after only 11 days of fighting, his regime collapsed into the dust. Your oppressors spent billions supporting Hamas in Gaza. Today, their regime lies in ruins. Your oppressors spent over $20 billion supporting Hezbollah in Lebanon. In a matter of weeks, most of Hezbollah's leaders, its rockets, and thousands of its terrorists went up in smoke. The money your oppressors stole from you literally went up in smoke. You must be furious imagining the new roads, schools, hospitals that could have been built with the tens of billions of dollars your dictators wasted backing terrorists who lose over and over and over again. Do you know why Iran's oppressors keep losing? It's not only because they're incompetent and cruel. They are. It's because they seek to conquer other nations, to impose fundamentalist tyranny on the Middle East, on the entire world.
Netanyahu went on to stress that Israel merely seeks to live in peace and security.
The only thing Israel seeks is to defend our state, but in so doing, we're defending civilization against barbarism. The historic events we witness today are a chain reaction to the pounding of Hamas, the decimation of Hezbollah, the targeting of Nasrallah, the blows we delivered to the Iran regime's axis of terror. And all this came, as President Trump pointed out this week, because of Israel and its fighting success.
The Israeli Prime Minister concluded his remarks by stressing Jerusalem's aspirations for peace with Iran once the Ayatollah regime will ultimately face justice.
I want to make clear, Israel wants peace. We want peace with all those who truly want peace with us. And I have no doubt that you, the people of Iran, know this. I know that just as we want peace with you, you want peace with us. But you suffer under the rule of a regime that subjugates you and threatens us. You know what this regime is truly terrified of? It's terrified of you, the people of Iran. And one day, I know that, one day this will change. One day Iran will be free. Women, life, freedom, zan, zandagi, azadi. That is the future of Iran. That is the future of peace. And I have no doubt that we will realize that future together a lot sooner than people think. I know, and I believe, we will transform the Middle East into a beacon of prosperity, progress, and peace.
Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu subsequently met with the outgoing U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan in Jerusalem, which, according to the Prime Minister's office, the two discussed regional developments, especially the reality-changing events in Syria. The statement further noted that Prime Minister Netanyahu made it clear that Israel would do its utmost to defend its security against any and all threats. To this end, he ordered the IDF to temporarily take control of the buffer zone in Syria until there is an effective force that will enforce the 1974 Separation of Forces Agreement. Moreover, The Prime Minister raised the issue of the vital need to assist the minorities in Syria and prevent terrorist activity against Israel from Syrian territory. Following his meeting with Netanyahu, Sullivan traveled to Tel Aviv, where he was joined by CENTCOM Commander General Michael Kurilla and White House Special Envoy Brett McGurk for a meeting with Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz, Strategic Affairs Minister Ron Dermer, and IDF Chief of General Staff Lieutenant General Herzia Levy.
The balance of power in the Middle East has changed significantly, and not in the way that Sinwar or Nasrallah or Iran had planned. We are now faced with a dramatically reshaped Middle East in which Israel is stronger, Iran is weaker, its proxies decimated, and a ceasefire that is new and will be lasting in Lebanon that ensures Israel's security over the long term. The purpose of my visit today has been to continue to build on this progress, to ensure that that ceasefire sticks and is fully enforced, to capitalize on the opportunity of the fall of Assad for a better future for the people of Syria, while vigilantly managing the risks that come with the change in Syria, including the possibility and the risk that terrorist groups like ISIS are able to take advantage and create new threats against the United States, Israel, and other countries in the region and around the world. To continue pressure on Iran, while remaining vigilant against the continuing threat from Iran, including the threat from its nuclear program. And President Biden remains committed to the simple proposition that the United States of America will never permit Iran to acquire a nuclear weapon.
Sullivan further highlighted that extensive efforts were being made to reach a hostage release deal, which the Biden administration hopes, within less than 40 days until it relinquishes the reins of power in Washington, to end the war in Gaza.
And to build on all that we've done, we're now looking to close a hostage release deal and a ceasefire, which would stop the war and reunite hostages with their families. Just over 1 year ago, we reached a deal that brought 78 hostages out of Gaza and home to their families. It's time to finish the job and bring all of the hostages home.
Sullivan's remarks on the Gaza file were made at a time when Washington's outgoing State Secretary Antony Blinken visited Ankara, during the course of which he noted the Biden administration's keen interest in involving Turkey in pressuring the Islamist Hamas terror group to say yes to the proposed outline for a ceasefire agreement.
We discussed Gaza, and we discussed, I think, the opportunity to finally try to complete the hostage ceasefire agreement, to get the hostages home, to get a ceasefire in place. And what we've seen in the last couple of weeks are more encouraging signs that that is possible. And in my discussions with President Erdogan and with Minister Fadan, we talked about the imperative of Hamas saying yes to the agreement that's possible, to finally help bring this to an end.
Washington's top diplomat continued by addressing the fluid situation in post-Assad Syria.
We're very focused on Syria, very focused on the opportunity that now is before us and before the Syrian people to move from out from under the shackles of Bashar al-Assad to a different and better future for the Syrian people, one that the Syrian people decide for themselves. And we talked about how Turkey, how the United States, how other partners in the region can support those efforts. And I think there's broad agreement on what we would each like to see going forward, starting with the interim government in Syria, one that is inclusive and non-sectarian, one that protects the rights of minorities and women, one that preserves institutions of the state and delivers services to the people, one that deals with any chemical weapons it may find to secure them and appropriately destroy them, one that rejects any alliances with extremist groups, and, of course, one that does not pose any kind of threat to any of Syria's neighbors.
Secretary Blinken went on to stress the imperative of continuing the efforts to keep ISIS down.
We also discussed the imperative of continuing the efforts to keep ISIS down, Our countries worked very hard and gave a lot over many years to ensure the elimination of the territorial caliphate of ISIS, to ensure that that threat doesn't rear its head again, and it's imperative that we keep at those efforts.
Turkey's Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan, for his part, seized the opportunity to stress the importance for Washington to take Ankara's concerns over the Kurdish Workers' Party, or PKK, which is a designated foreign terrorist organization, into account.
We discussed what kind of roles both U.S. and Turkey and regional actors need to play and what kind of cooperation that we need to be in, especially finding stability in Syria, not letting terrorism to settle and avoiding PKK and IS to be dominant. We discussed what can we do about those issues, what are our common worries and solutions regarding those worries.
It is important to note that Turkey had launched multiple aerial strikes against military vehicles and other munitions belonging to the Kurdish YPG militia, which Ankara views as an extension of the PKK in Syria's northeastern Al-Hasaka governorate.
The weapons were located in the 54th Regiment, remnants of the regime. Last night, we lived in terror. People came out of their homes, wondering what had happened. We didn't know what was going on. Shells were above us, and shrapnel.
Meanwhile, in the vicinity of Damascus, the Israeli Air Force struck the T4 military air base in the northern area of the Syrian capital, destroying a couple of additional aircraft squadrons. Moreover, the IDF announced that over the past 72 hours alone, the Israeli Air Force conducted over 500 aerial strikes on strategic munitions that were abandoned by the Assad regime, to include over 90% of the identified surface-to-air missiles in almost all of Syria's aerial defense array, which the IDF noted was among the strongest in the Middle East. Thank you for watching TV7 Israel News. Since TV7 Israel is a donation-based ministry, your support is vital for the sustainability of our operations here in Jerusalem. Therefore, if you're blessed by our productions, please consider prescribing a donation. You can do so via our website at www.tv7israelnews.com. Separately, I would like to encourage you, pray for the peace of Jerusalem and salvation of Israel. I'm Jonathan Hassan, wishing you a Shabbat Shalom Mevorach, and God willing, we will see you during our next update. Until then, Shalom from Jerusalem.